Hey everybody, this is Mark Fisher with Mark and the Millennials. We have President Trump gives a State of the Union speech. Virginia Democrats in meltdown mode, and we have the dumbest bill in America. This is Mark Fisher with Mark and the Millennials, and the Millennials are Andrew Fulginiti. How you doing?
Good, Mark.
And Ryan Brady, the squirrel.
Still here.
Squirrel!
Welcome, guys. So we're going to start with the State of the Union speech by President Donald Trump. I thought it was an incredibly aspirational speech, but what I thought more than anything else about this speech was how he really nailed it on socialism about our country. I mean, what did you guys think about that?
Yeah, I agree. I think, well, honestly, I thought it was very interesting. I think his whole take on socialism, I think this kind of like war on socialism is kind of ramping up all of a sudden, and we're hearing so much more about it.
It really is.
I think it's also because of my generation, the millennials, a lot of them are favorable. I think it even said, I saw a polling the other day from Fox News saying that 50% of Democrats have a favorable view of socialism.
I mean, what the heck, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of why that President Trump was kind of bringing that up and hitting that home, is because they see that movement, popping up. So
And Brady, socialism. Come on.
Well, don't they know socialism doesn't work? We have history as our guide.
Exactly.
But to be honest, I actually wasn't planning to watch the State of the Union. But then I heard one thing, and I got hooked, and I was watching for 15 minutes straight, standing up, and I was getting goosebumps. I actually enjoyed the speech.
So we have a clip on President Trump's comments about socialism. We're going to play that right now. You got to listen to this.
America was founded on liberty and independence, and not government coercion, domination, and control. We are born free, and we will stay free. Tonight, we renew our resolve that America will never be a socialist country.
So I got to tell you guys, when he said that, I was sitting in my sofa, right, watching TV, just kind of like hanging out, maybe even kind of lounging on the sofa. When he said that, I actually came to my feet. I had to stand up because it was so inspirational. I've been waiting for a president of the United States to say this since Ronald Reagan, who talked about this all the time in the epic battle with the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, otherwise known as, Russia today, by you guys. Thoughts?
yeah, I think that might be the difference in our generations right there, is that this issue is kind of polarizing. I think that, like Ryan said, he's like, don't people know that, how bad socialism was? I don't think our generation really does know. I think it's like, millennials, for the most part, are so removed from what socialism was for your generation that today it's like it's not socialism in its true form. It's little ideals here and snippets taken that's why we see it as positive. It's like people take the bits that they like, and so that's the view of socialism from our generation, and people think it can work by pulling pieces from it. So I don't think I'm interested to see how this war on socialism from Trump plays out, because I don't think it's going to hit for a lot of my generation.
Mm-hmm. Well, also, we were born at the tail end of the Cold War, or even when the Cold War was totally gone.
Mm-hmm.
The USSR fell, and then you got the Russian Federation to
So
grow.
you've never had a history of really having this epic battle
between another state power. We've had asymmetric fights with insurgents and terrorist groups, but that's about it.
We learned of it in history class, but we haven't lived through it. I think there's a huge difference, right?
Khrushchev, Gorbachev, Yeltsin.
And that's the difference between the boomers and you guys, right? Because that was the epic battle in the 20th century. Now you're in the 21st century. Like, what the heck is socialism? Maybe we should try it. Meanwhile,
Right.
Socialism light is what they're trying to go towards, but you can't take the good parts of socialism with the bad. It always comes
But
along
were you
the way.
inspired by his comments that we were born free?
Oh, that was a great affirmative and declaratory statement that...
It was aspirational.
It was great.
Yeah,
It's incredibly aspirational.
Bernie Sanders' face, oh my, that made my night.
I feel like in my generation, we haven't seen, lived through that many presidencies, but that by far was like one of those speeches that really kind of captured you and made you like dream, made you want to dream big, and kind of portrayed that American ideal. Whereas in the past, we didn't really get that. I mean, you could see he was kind of, that's Trump style though. I mean, he's kind of off the cuff, like really gets you to dream big.
How about Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez? I mean, did you see her face when they panned to, the Democrats in the chamber?
She was not amused, and she was looking for, do we clap for this? Because the speech that whoever wrote that speech needs a raise, because he had them going up and down, left and sideways, clapping for President Trump and pauses they could not stand.
But you know what I noticed is Republicans in the chamber, they know when to stand because it's part of who they are. It's a principle that they fundamentally agree on, and they just stand up by themselves. The Democrats look at each other like, is it okay? Is Nancy going to say it's okay? I mean, Nancy, is it all right?
Groupthink.
Exactly.
Yeah. The demeanor is kind of disappointing, I think, all around. But it's not like it wasn't disappointing under Obama too. I think it happened as well. But the demeanor is always disappointing when it's like because no matter who the president is, they talk about things that everyone can agree on, and even in those instances, they sit on their hands and put on pouty faces and shake their heads, and it's like, where's the bipartisanship that they're pushing and saying that Trump doesn't? It's like it's frustrating watching that as an American citizen.
Agreed.
Like,
Partisanship never wins.
Yeah, and I feel like this is a new time in America where it's actually to the extreme. Because you look at the chamber and you look at Nancy Pelosi, you look at her face, right? I mean, she has a hard enough time showing disapproval with all the Botox and all of the stretched skin and all that stuff. But you can tell that she's not approving because kind of the lips go crooked, and one side is, moving up and the other side's moving down, but the cheeks don't move at all.
And the amount of articles spending time on how she clapped and postured her face at Trump and behind his back.
And so if you guys think that is something to watch the Democrats, when he talked about, America will not be a socialist nation, he also talked about abortion. And I have to tell you, I actually do not remember a president being so direct about this particular issue. I've certainly heard presidents throughout my life talk about pro-life, that they're pro-life, and talk about this particular issue kind of generally speaking. I've never heard a president take this on in a joint session of Congress for the State of the Union speech. We have a clip on this. Let's play that.
Lawmakers in New York cheered with delight upon the passage of legislation that would allow a baby to be ripped from the mother's womb moments from birth. These are living, feeling, beautiful babies who will never get the chance to share their love and their dreams with the world. And then we had the case of the governor of Virginia, where he stated he would execute a baby after birth. To defend the dignity of every person, I am asking Congress to pass legislation to prohibit the late-term abortion of children who can feel pain in the mother's womb.
Once again, incredibly aspirational because of the thing that most people who are thinking people have often thought, that this is where we're going as a society, namely the bill in New York and what Governor Ralph Northam said in Virginia, that it's okay that if the baby turns out not exactly the way you wanted it for whatever reason, and the baby's coming down the birth canal and you're trying to abort the baby at that very last possible minute and the baby's still alive once born, that you can figure out a way to essentially euthanize or kill this human being. Thoughts,
Infanticide.
Guys? Infanticide,
Yep.
Yes, exactly. So
I loved that this, President Trump taking this stance. I mean, it's like you were saying, Mark, it's far and few between if we've ever seen a president take a moral position like this, whether you agree with it or disagree with it. He took a position and he stood up for it, and you just don't hear that often. You usually hear people address the subject in political talk and kind of dance around it, and they don't talk passionately about whatever it is they believe. I mean, he took a moral stance on that, and he said, I'm not going to put up with it.
he has. And the thing is, one of the things I've maintained for many years is science is not on the side of the abortionist, because as science races ahead, we're able to keep human beings alive earlier and earlier, and we're able to detect issues earlier and earlier, and in some cases actually fix them in the womb. But here we have a situation where the Democrats have shown their true colors, and the president has taken them on head on in the State of the Union speech this year. And what did the Democrats do? I mean, talk to me, guys. You saw them in this.
Well, when
this
the camera panned after he said that, you saw one half of the room standing up, clapping and being very, very boisterous, and the other side being quiet and sitting down, looking all pouty.
Yeah, I mean, imagine being the person sitting down going, oh no, I can't stand up for this. I have to look angry because I want us to kill kids once they're born. I mean, really? Yeah. Andrew?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I'm sure there are some. I think Joe Manchin may have been the only Democrat that stood up for that one. But yeah,
I saw that too.
Yeah, and I think he was getting some daggers in the back there. But yeah, it's. I guess this is just, like I said, breaking from the norm, talking about these moral issues. A lot of them that were the reason this country was formed, but it's not politically correct nowadays. So it's like you can't stand and clap for something that whether or not you believe in it or not.
And speaking of which, Senator Ben Sasse, as a result of what happened in New York, and of course with respect to the abortion bill, and as a result of Ralph Northam's comments about abortion, Ben Sasse introduced a bill. It's basically the Born Alive bill. It's what it's known as. And the idea being that you can't kill a child once it's born, even though your intent was to abort it, or maybe, and who knows, maybe not abort it. But that's what his bill does, and we have a clip from that.
This place fancies itself the world's greatest deliberative body, but we would be deceiving ourselves if we ignored the biggest debate that's been happening in America over the last 36 hours. A public elected official, the governor of one of the 50 states, has been defending a practice that is morally repugnant. The governor of Virginia has been defending a practice that is repugnant to civilized people across the entire world. Here's just one of the ugly nuggets from Ralph Northam, the governor of Virginia. Quote, "If the mother is in labor, the infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated, if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physician and the mother." Let's be really clear about what we're talking about here. We're talking about fourth trimester abortion, or what anyone in the normal world calls infanticide.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say it any better than that, Ben Sass, and yet it's my understanding that even though he introduced this bill to try to counteract what had happened in New York and what was potentially going to happen in Virginia, that it was actually killed.
By Senator Patty Murray of Washington.
Which is incredible. I mean, she killed the bill. I mean, even though the Republicans have a majority, of course, you need a supermajority, you need 60 to be able to obviously defeat a bill, or to pass a bill, excuse me. But which is ridiculous that you need 60 votes, even though you have a majority, but that's kind of where we are now.
And regardless of your position on abortion, because that's a very touchy subject, and abortions are illegal under Roe v. Wade, but right now, as medical technology and science evolves, you're being able to solve birth defects in the womb earlier in the pregnancy and as well as after they're born. And also, first initial ultrasounds happen between the 4.5 months and 5th month of pregnancy, which is still in the second trimester, where you can determine if it's a vital pregnancy or not, and then actually have an ongoing conversation with your doctors on this deal. But
that's good.
Here's
that's
the problem.
So what do millennials think about that? This is what I'm really thinking about, because I'm looking at you answering this, and this is great to have these facts for people to hear, but what do millennials think about this issue? Do they find it extreme that people in the Democratic Party think it's okay to essentially kill someone?
They should. I mean, to me, Ben Sass he said it great, but he could even said it even better. This debate isn't about abortion. I think if he's bringing abortion, there's no point in bringing this into the debate, because that's not what we're talking about. He said the word infanticide, which is probably the correct term.
Yes.
This is a debate over murder. I mean, we're talking about a baby that's born and then what to do with it. Abortion's in the past. Like, we're not even talking about that. So when they bring up abortion and talking about, well, you're attacking abortion, no, we're not even talking about it. We're past that. So I think that should be excluded from the argument.
And what kind of a society don't millennials think? I mean, help me with this. Do they think, what kind of society would actually do this? Is this what a civilized society does?
I wouldn't agree with that, but civilized society wouldn't do this, in my opinion. But to finish my point, though, the fact that you consider having abortion at the time of birth, when you already had all the medical information available to you, that's just bad family planning. If you were going to actually have the abortion, you should have had it when you're legally able to, not when you're dilating actually having the kid. And also, Senator Murray's objection was because we already have bills against murdering kids.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, that tells you what she really wants, because obviously if you want to have extra protection, you would pretty much pass a bill like this based on what just happened in New York and what they're trying to do in Virginia, no matter what.
So it wasn't taken out of context in Northam.
Final thoughts, Fuji.
Yeah, on this one, excuse me, like I said, I think this is the Democrats are trying to position this as an abortion debate, and it's just not. You think what you will about abortion, abortion, the law of the land, Supreme Court has decided. So I think you need to take that completely out of the discussion when we're talking about what Virginia and New York and what Governor Northam was defending. I think that should not be a part of the debate, because this is infanticide, this is murder. And
speaking of which, we're going to go to Virginia. Virginia Democrats are in complete meltdown. First, Governor Ralph Northam was in blackface, or perhaps wearing a KKK outfit. We're not sure, because there was a picture of both of these individuals in his yearbook during college, medical school exactly. And then Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax was alleged to have sexually assaulted at least one woman. I think a second woman has since come forward. And then the Attorney General Mark Herring admits to wearing blackface in college in 1980. So the top 3 leaders in Virginia have done something that is completely egregious. And interestingly enough, I thought about this and I was thinking the other day, you know what? I'll bet you Saturday Night Live has something about this because this just seems like something that's not possible, right? But we have a clip on Saturday Night Live. You got to hear this. Here it goes.
All right, so we're all in agreement that the lieutenant governor should be encouraged to step down. All right, then it's settled. One more quick thing before we get out of here. As you all know, earlier this week, our governor admitted to wearing blackface in college as part of a costume. And then later, the attorney general also admitted to wearing blackface in college as part of a costume. It's extremely embarrassing to the state. And as chair of the ethics committee, I have to ask, has anybody else worn blackface in college?
Oh, it's never get old.
And that was Saturday Night Live. They ran with that for probably 10 minutes, that particular skit. And of course, you have to laugh at this because, and we're not laughing and thinking that blackface is good. First of all, I want everybody to know that we absolutely deplore this. We think it's an awful thing. But the skit is funny because you have to make fun of something that just seems impossible in the 21st century that happened in the 1980s, more or less. It happened in the 1980s, I think, with the Governor Northam and also with the AG. Thoughts about this?
I think it's good to have Saturday Night Live attack something like this. I mean, because I think at the end of the day, when we have scandals like this, it's like, how do you approach this and have the true discussion about, as we're advancing as a society, how do you address those types of topics that, now are maybe feel taboo, but, having humor, I think, is one way to address that and have, the conversation is, what are we going to accept as a society? Or is that behavior acceptable for our politicians? Is it not? So, I think SNL did a good job with that one.
Yeah, humor is a great tool for this.
What's interesting, too, is these 3 individuals, the top lawmakers and the top elected officials in the state of Virginia, if they all were to resign, then the Speaker of the House, who is a Republican, could theoretically be Governor of Virginia. The Speaker of the House of Virginia, his last name is Cox, and he's Delegate Cox, and he's a Speaker. He could be the actual Governor of Virginia, and what's really interesting is he actually ran against a very dear friend of mine, who was former Delegate Dix in Virginia. And that was in 1989, and my good friend Chip Dix lost that race. It was very unfortunate, but Cox beat him, and it's interesting that we have this. I know it's
Dix versus Cox. You just got to have to mention that one there. I'm sorry.
I was trying to hold that one too.
Holding back on that one.
Well, and apparently way back in the day in 1989, there was an article in Playboy magazine, and I want our listeners to forgive me for this because I'm not. We have to laugh, of course, at these things because names are funny. But my good friend Chip Dix, and that is his real name, it's John G. Chip Dix. He was running for re-election, and his opponent was Cox, of course. And Playboy magazine had this whole thing
that
about
up real fast.
Yeah, they picked it up, and you can imagine what they did with that. But it goes all the way back to 1989, and this gentleman, Representative Cox or Delegate Cox, could become Governor of Virginia. He just won his re-election because it was even. He had the exact same number of votes as his opponent, and in order to determine the winner, they flipped a coin, and they said, okay, well, Cox chose correctly, and therefore now this guy could be. It's just incredible. Thoughts, guys?
Well, the calls for the lieutenant governor to resign is going to probably stop happening.
Do you think the Democrats could even allow that to happen?
They wouldn't want to let a state go away and flip to Republican. That Dana Perino even had that fact on the 5 last week, and I think that was pretty astute calculation because they're going to play the political game on this.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, definitely. That they're going to come to the realization that they don't want to turn the state over to Republican control, especially if they fought so hard for it.
There's no way. I mean, and of course, if all this came out during the general election, there's no way we would have a Governor Ralph Northam. We'd have a Governor Gillespie without question. And Northam is now saying, well, he's a different person now than he was then. But he was an adult in medical school, which meant that he had to have been at least in his mid-20s. Right.
Yeah, I think I definitely have concerns over some of these cases. I mean, because it's like it seems like in today's society we've lost where everything's judged in the court of public opinion and there's no due process anymore. So I definitely have concerns, and and I do feel for some of these people, but his situation, I think I agree. It's like he was an adult. He was, he wasn't a freshman in college or in high school or anything like that. I mean, he was an adult. He was in medical school.
Well, how about Justin Fairfax? I mean, Justin Fairfax has allegations against him, and of course, that's all that Kavanaugh had against him. They were allegations. Now, to be fair, it does appear that Justin Fairfax actually has the specific individual coming forward. Not Kavanaugh did too, but a specific individual coming forward that said this actually happened and gave a time, a place, and a location, and so forth. I mean, should he resign?
That's a tough one. I mean, if we're going to be consistent, we got to be consistent.
And the precedent was established almost, but then it depends about the evidence.
See, that was a trick to the millennials. I mean, because we believe in due process as a country, right?
Right.
I mean, you have to give this gentleman due process, because otherwise, from this point forward, all anyone could do is just make up anything. Not saying this is made up.
No.
But just say something, and therefore it's like, well, because someone said it, it must be so.
Yeah,
Yep.
I believe in due process, and I think that there is due process. There is something that we have to follow, and if we get rid of that, that's very, very dangerous.
And the first accuser's legal team's the same one that represented Dr. Blasey Ford.
That's right. You're right, which is incredible. How about A.G. Herring, Mark Herring? Should he resign because he wore blackface, admittedly, in the 1980s?
Well, if Northam has to resign for wearing blackface, so does Herring.
Okay, so those two go, and then you have a new governor, of course, who is Justin Fairfax, who has been alleged to have twice over committed sexual assault, among other things.
He wants the FBI to probe it.
That's good. So our next subject matter: a Texas zoo will name a cockroach after your ex, then feed it to a meerkat. And we have a clip on this. Let's hear this.
El Paso Zoo is offering an interesting gift. Interesting and probably actually more creepy. The zoo wants you to name a cockroach after your ex. And here's the best part. On Valentine's Day, they'll feed that creepy crawler to a meerkat. What better way to remember someone who's no longer bugging you? You can take part by messaging the El Paso Zoo on its Facebook page. Send the first name and last initial of your ex by Sunday, February 10th. Then starting Monday, all the names will be posted online. And on Valentine's Day, the roaches will be devoured. The offer is so popular, the zoo is now adding other hungry varmints to the meerkats. So your ex might be eaten by a tamarind or a marmoset. But don't worry, it is the thought that counts after all.
So I got to ask you guys something. I have to ask you something. What since we're talking about February 14th and Valentine's Day and so forth, who would you like to feed to a meerkat? What name would you like to give a cockroach to feed to a meerkat, and why?
Well,
Brian.
First, the meerkat has to be called Timon.
In your case, we'll feed it to a squirrel. So
maybe. Do squirrels eat cockroaches? I don't know. I was thinking Maduro.
Okay. I was kind of thinking more like something more personal, like
nah, I'm good.
All right.
I think we're limiting ourselves to saying it has to be exes. I mean, I think this is a brilliant idea. I think you could use this as a good gift. Like if the zoo was smart, like they would actually say it's like $1 per cockroach or something like that, and you could people give out donations like, oh, I donated to this charity in your honor, as a Christmas gift or something like that. George Costanza, the Human Fund. But in this one, you could say, hey, if you have a friend in your life that's an animal lover, you could be like, I fed a meerkat in El Paso, Texas. Here's your gift, and name the cockroach after them.
This is how much I care for you. I got you a cockroach to be eaten by a meerkat.
Right, exactly.
And then you can watch it online. I mean, you can watch them feed your...
That's a little weird. If I was giving this as like a gift, like a sincere gift, I don't think I'd tell them about the live streaming, because that's probably not
Battle Royale, 2 enter, 1 leaves.
So what politician would you buy a cockroach and name it after? I mean, you have to have somebody. How about you, Fuji? Any politician? All right, it doesn't have to be a politician.
Hey, maybe costume's a threat, just so you know.
Famous person. How about just famous person?
Famous person.
Yeah. Well, we got Adam Couture here. He's the tech guy. Come on, Adam. You got anybody?
I don't.
There's too many. I can't think of one. I had Maduro. Everyone can agree with that.
I like Fuji's idea of just doing it as a gift and sending a little postcard to somebody, like one of your fellow folks that you serve with. You
might want to leave I think cockroach is a weird. I don't know if they'd take that as a nice thing, so I might leave that out of it and just be like, hey, I fed a meerkat in your honor.
They'll go thanks.
Given some consideration to this, I think I'd send mine to PETA. Just
Send the video.
put them in a real conundrum there. Do they support it? Are they opposed?
Yeah, because we're feeding animals.
That was Adam
I mean,
Couture, by the way.
The circle of life.
So now, folks, we have the dumbest bill in America.
Dum 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 dum.
So, in Alabama, no surprise, Title 32, the Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Chapter 5A, Rules of the Road, obstructing to driver's view or driving mechanism. The bill says no person shall drive a vehicle when it is loaded or when they are in the front seat such a number of persons as to obstruct the view of the driver to the front or the sides of the vehicle, or as to interfere with the driver's control over the driving mechanism of the vehicle. And no passenger in a vehicle shall ride in such a position as to interfere with the driver's view ahead or to the sides, or to interfere with his or her control over the driving mechanism of the vehicle. In other words, you can't drive with somebody in front of you, like hiding you. You can't drive, blindfolded. You can't drive with someone obstructing your view. I mean, do we really need a law for this? I mean, isn't this kind of obvious?
I don't know. I at first I was gonna say yes, but now that I'm picturing this, I just can't help but picturing like 30 clowns stuffed into a car and thinking like, maybe we actually need this law. Like, I'm kind of like, I wasn't until I just thought of that, and now I'm like, well, wait a second, that could be a bad
So
thing.
there was a clown car accident somewhere. A lot of clowns died.
In rural Alabama.
They had that clown on the side of the road that looked really angry, and
Right.
they saw him, they were really upset, and then they got into an accident.
Pennywise.
Do we need laws like this? Come on,
No.
Brady.
I don't think so.
No.
We already have negligent driver laws and manslaughter laws involving vehicular manslaughter. There you go. But we already have those laws. So if
But we
you're
already
causing
have,
an accident,
but don't we already have laws, of course, in the books? Every state does about
Well, yeah.
driving in a way that is dangerous or dangerous driving. I mean, I'm sure this stuff's on there, but this is like so specific. I mean,
Common
what's the police
sense.
going to say? Policeman's going to say, "Oh, I pulled you over." He's going to reference this exact law. I mean,
I see that as unlikely.
You had someone sitting on your lap in front of you and blocking your view, so therefore I stopped you. But it's on this particular. I mean, come on, that makes no sense, right?
No, this is just
Reckless
common
driving.
sense. Yeah, I mean, exactly. I'm sure there's a number of laws that they could use without having this one on the books. Like, this is, I guess, legislator putting a feather in their cap and saying I passed the law.
Exactly. And I just want everybody to know out there that the reason why we do the dumbest bill in America on every single podcast is because there are too many laws in the United States, and there are too many laws that are obstructing our ability to be free as a free people. Yeah. And when you have too many laws that regulate every aspect of your life, then at some point you're not going to be free anymore. And it's just kind of obvious. We don't need laws to do every kind of tiny little thing. That's why we do this. We do it because it's funny. We also do it because we want people to be aware of the potential problem arising out of passing all these laws. And we hope that all of you out there will post on Facebook or send us an email. And send us an email so that we can talk about these kind of issues, about bad laws that your state or your legislature or your county or the federal government is trying to pass. And we'll maybe pick that up as the dumbest bill in America. And so next, and finally, we have the tech trends. We've been talking about this for a while. We started a tech trend segment in each podcast, and this one is about the Bose audio sunglasses. And I was hoping that you guys could talk about this. What are the Bose audio sunglasses, Andrew?
Yeah, so the way I understand it is these are sunglasses made by Bose, the speaker company, that are essentially attempting to replace the need for headphones and earbuds and things like that. I mean, these are actually stylish-looking sunglasses. I mean, that have a built-in capability to play music directly to your ear without actually having something in your ear or over your ear.
So no earbuds then?
No, it's a great idea.
So you don't have things sticking in your ears, which of course are incredibly uncomfortable.
Right.
And these particular sunglasses, you just wear them as sunglasses. You get rid of get rid of the wires, or if it's wireless, you get rid of the buds, right?
And they sync to your phone, so you can take phone calls with a one-touch button on the side of the frames. And as the ad said, they're premium lenses, premium frames. They're scratch resistant, can block 99.99% of UVB and UV rays. So they're trying to market it as an all-in-one solution to replace your traditional sunglasses and your traditional iPod headphones or whatever you decide to wear with just an all-in-one solution, and try to get rid of actually having microphone speakers in your ears.
And this is the precursor to AR too, because the idea is eventually you have augmented reality with these glasses. You can have stuff superimposed. And augmented reality in this particular case means things would be superimposed, like, Pokemon or something like that, on your glasses while you're listening to it, depending on where you're walking, and to the music, right? I mean, that's kind of and they're $199. I mean, it's expensive, obviously, but a lot of people
but no more than what you would spend on a pair of sunglasses.
On a regular pair of sunglasses.
Yeah, or headphones for that matter.
Beats, even regular Bose.
A lot of the Bose, over the ear headphones that are noise canceling and things like that. I mean, they're going to cost you a couple $100. And this takes care of both, right? And, a $200 pair of sunglasses, because they're nice looking sunglasses. I think the reviews, that was the one thing that people were saying, is that they could be a little more stylish, but they'll improve on that. But really, I mean, this gets rid of one of those technologies.
Looks like
right,
too.
Yeah.
But you know what's funny though? That AR. Imagine if you're listening to like some really hardcore like death metal. I wonder what kind of like imagery that would be posed on your lens. You'd be like, "Oh, I'm tripping out, man."
Yeah. We know the state of Maryland legalized medicinal marijuana, and I think they want to do recreational marijuana, and perhaps they'll be selling these in those same shops. I would imagine.
Well, Senator Harris came out with that too.
Exactly.
Know your audience.
Absolutely. So every podcast, we're going to talk about tech trends. We're going to have one issue about tech that's really cool and neat and out there. And that way, it kind of makes it cool. I know millennials love this. I love technology. It's the business that I'm in. And last but not least, I just want to thank our millennials, Ryan Brady, the squirrel, and Andrew Fujiniti, and our tech person, Adam Katora. This is Mark Fisher. We'll talk to you, and hopefully you'll listen to us next time. Send us an email at markandthemillennials@gmail.com, or post on Facebook. Anything you'll tell us. This is Mark Fisher. Out.